Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Ooh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones. Audio medic. Move to the beat. Boost. Oh, this is my jam. Time to accelerate. Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Ooh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it. Damn. Let's drop the beat.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of Off the Wall, powered by CGO Console Gaming League. It's your boy, Dazzle167, and we are back at it again. And before we start all the show once again, I must remind everybody we are sponsored by SoSickClothing.com. So if you want to get some sick clothing, go check them out. Use discount code Dazzle167 for 15% discount on all your purchases. Now that we got all of that out of the way, all the niceties, I want to introduce one of the most probably infamous, if not orgs, at least name wise, to be ever in the CGO. We have Burr. He represents the org. Danny Defeato. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So listen, there's a lot of stuff that I think there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we need to talk about, right? And there's we have some things that we need to go through. But before we do all of that, because I think there's so many different questions, I'm sure chat will have some questions too, which by the way, feel free to put in the chat later on. We'll have them have them answer that. But first of all, let's talk about your gaming origin, right? I'm interested in about what you started playing personally. So let's go back all the way to the beginning and let's talk about some of the first games that you ever played and some of the first platforms you played.
Well, I'm trying to think back. The first console is probably PlayStation, like the old big gray PlayStation. That's kind of where I started, and I was PlayStation. Then you had the Slim, then you had the PS2, and I was always a PlayStation guy. And then we got into the Nintendo, had the old Nintendos, playing Mario. Moved up to got the GameCube, that kind of stuff. So really big, yeah, really big into those kind of systems. I mean, 007 GoldenEye, that was the
Oh,
best
you go
game
way
there.
back like me, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that was one of my favorite games of all time. Still is. And then got into Xbox a little bit later than probably most people. Then
Right.
started playing Halo, Call of Duty, those type of FPS games, and kind of evolved to where I am now, I guess.
Right. So listen, you started kind of the same around the same era then as I did, because I remember my first real gaming like experience with other people in competitive was like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and then Nintendo 64. You used to get and like try to get with your friends and all together and used to play the game and yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool a thing that I don't think a lot of the younger guys have experienced yet, because that was like the trailblazing type of competitive playing. But that's awesome. Um,
Yeah, those kids don't. These kids don't know about having the screen peeking going on and stuff like that.
right,
Like,
right,
you
right.
kind of hide that, and then I'm not peeking, but everyone was screen peeking back then.
Right, exactly. And then you could say like now it's like stream sniping, but back then it was screen
Yeah,
peeking. And I remember
exactly.
back then, I mean, back in the Halo days when it was LAN tournaments or even just, in your house, I used to bring, two Xboxes and hook them up through LAN. And we used to have two TVs and have to face them like this, like in a triangle, so nobody could screen peek.
Yeah,
Yeah, those were the days. Those are old school like pre esports days. Um,
exactly.
well, listen, how did you get into Overwatch? I always find this fascinating for people that come in to CGL and stuff like that. So tell me, what's your experience with Overwatch? What made you want to play it?
Well, I kind of got to a point where I wasn't playing much video games, and I was home visiting my family for Christmas, and my brother and my cousin they got Overwatch. They're talking about how they won all these awards, and they're excited to play it. So they're playing it at Christmas while I was visiting, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's kind of different because the graphics, when you first look at Overwatch, it's got more colors to it. It's not as you don't see the blood, the gore as like a Call of Duty or something like that.
Right.
And it was kind of a different take. And it kind of was one of those things like, oh, it's kind of unique. I never played any of those type of FPS games with all these abilities. It was just more so I played Call of Duty. That was it.
Right.
And so I played a little bit with my brothers, and then I was leaving to go back home after Christmas. They're like, you should get it." So I was like, "All right." So went back home and didn't do it right away because like, no, I'm already over it now. It was just one of those one time phase things. But then they kept asking. He's like, "All right, I think my one brother made a game share with me, or he said he'd split with me. Like I have two younger brothers. I think we said maybe we'd split a game share." And so then we went ahead and we did that, and yeah, and then that's how I first got into Overwatch.
Nice. What were some of the first characters that you started playing?
Bastion was the first one.
Oh, you're that
Um,
guy.
yeah, I'm 100%. Yeah. Again, I saw my brother play. I'm like, dude, this guy's just sitting there mowing down everyone. He's gonna like play the game. I was like, is this
Yeah.
guy's just broken? So I was like, I've got to do that, I guess. So I think I had like a good like 30 hours of Bastion for like the first little bit of
Right.
Overwatch, and then played a lot of Diva and played a lot of Diva, and that's when I started to climb was a little bit Diva, and then I don't know, maybe this is how all support mains become. We just get sick of not getting healed enough
Right.
one day, and we
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'll heal, I'll heal the team,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I started off with Mercy, and had to realize like, hey, this is kind of a fun hero. It's not just you don't just hold down RT and heal. You can move around, be evasive, that kind of stuff. So started with her, and now I've evolved into playing multiple support heroes.
Nice. Nice. Cool. All right. So listen, we got all that stuff out of the way. I think that there's one question that we need to address immediately, right? Because this is and that's the origin of the infamous Danny Defeato name. Tell us that there's got to be an origin story to this name. It's probably one of the most well recognized names in the entire CGL tournament, right? And you have a logo to go with it and everything, and it's just a fun name. Tell us the story behind it.
So yeah, like I guess there's an origin story. I don't know if it's as great as everyone anticipates, but there's actually an origin story. Actually, gonna go back to my brothers and my cousins there. I've always been a competitive guy, and I heard about Overguard, which I think most people are familiar with.
Right.
Putting on a league, and I was like, hey, let's build a team. And only one of my brothers wanted to, and only one of my cousins went to. I said, all right, we'll got three. We need three more guys. So I just put on Discord looking for guys, and I got Crazy Joe, and I got GIF, and this was almost 2 years ago now. I think it's 2 years ago, 2 years in like October or something like that will be that we've been Danny DeFito. It's been 2 years, and those two guys are my other co-owners. We have one other guy, Logan, but that's the main core. And we got one other guy we got off Reddit actually, and we played in Overguard. Oh, sorry, so we got together in Discord, like come up with a team name, and we're just kind of thinking and whatnot. And the three guys we picked up were big fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and
Right.
so I don't know how we got on this topic, but we started going on about Danny DeVito and this and that. And I mean, you could go, yeah, I don't want to say too much because that show can say some different things, whatever. I'll keep it clean. But someone just said Danny DeVito, and everyone's like, yeah, that's hilarious. Let's do that. I mean, like it just, I couldn't honestly even tell you who said that name, but when we were spitballing ideas, because I think we threw a couple other ideas, some Sunny in Philadelphia ones and whatnot, but
Right.
Danny DeFito, just one of those things that's kind of stuck. We said that's fun, that's silly, and we kind of went with it. And I guess yeah, after that, the rest is history.
Nice. That's awesome because I'm also a huge fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I watched every episode. I'm all caught up. I'm a big fan, and I think that like when I saw that, I was like, that's crazy. And then I saw the logo, and it's not. It's almost like it's it's almost like once you're part of like that type of team. There's like a culture behind it. You can see like everything that happens be like as an outsider, right? I'm looking at whenever you guys face each other, and I look at chat, and chat is just ridiculous. Tell me a little bit about the story about the Doritos because spam this Dorito for Danny DeVito. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's new. This is the first season of our Spam the Doritos to help Danny DeFito, and I think it goes back to either a preseason game or a week one game this season. And I want to say preseason because we were shuffling guys in and out preseason. The game didn't matter, so we're doing things. And GIF, one of our original members, one of the OG Danny DeFeato. He was in Twitch chat. He's kind of our, resident memeologist. I can call him. He's got all the memes. That's where they come from. And I think he threw that one out. He may have threw a couple other different kind of Twitch chats out, whatever. But the Dorito one just fit. I mean, it's cheesy. We're cheesy. It just works, and it just was so natural, and it just kind of caught on. We just saw people that no idea who they are. They're just watching the game, just copy and pasting it over and over again, and we're like, "This is awesome! Like, we got to go with this." So then, for our first we had almost all our games were streamed this year, but for the first few, like when we would send tweets out and stuff like that, like we would do kind of some of the bulk work of like we got to spam it ourselves, get other people to do it, and then it kind of caught on, and then we saw other teams trying to emulate or come up with something, but nothing ever stuck as clear as ours. And then by the time it was like week 7, week 8, we didn't have to start any Doritos in the chat. Everyone was just sending them on
Yeah.
their own there. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to. It's one of those things where, like, even if you're not for the team, it's one of those, like, how you go to sports games and they have a chant, and the chant is so good that you can't help but be like, all right, I'm gonna chant with them. Yeah, I'm not even rooting for the team. The chant is so good. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like the Dorito spam is so good that you just have to. I mean, so
I completely agree. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love it.
yeah, no, and it's so good. Now, okay, here's an important question that I saw on Twitter. Somebody was like, if you don't ask this question, you're throwing, and I absolutely agree. So I'm gonna ask this question. What is, personally for you, what is your favorite Doritos flavor?
I like the orange, the zesty.
Okay,
That's what I go. I go with the zesty one.
nice.
I know there's probably everyone Cool Ranch. I know that's probably like the
Right,
consensus number one.
right.
But personally, the orange bag, the zesty cheese Doritos, those are my favorite for sure.
I'm actually partial to the spicy sweet chili one.
Yeah.
I really like that one, which is actually funny because I'm not really like a spicy type guy. Like, I don't like spicy foods or anything, but that one's just so good. Like, I can't help it. It's such a good flavor. So, that's good to know. I'm pretty sure everybody wanted to know that.
Well, and all in all, I mean, there's no bad flavored Doritos if you ask
Right,
me. I'll eat them all, right?
right.
So,
I mean,
but
classic
yeah,
anything. I mean,
exactly,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, they're all pretty good. Definitely. All right, so listen. We're gonna go through. I want to talk about your season specifically, with Danny DeFeato. So obviously, you guys are reigning champs in the Diamond Division for NA, which is huge achievement. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
so okay, so I want to ask. I think you guys obviously have been together for a while as far as like an organization, and you talked about a few players and stuff like that. Um, did you feel like coming into the playoffs and throughout the season, did you feel like you guys were the front runner, or did you work at it? How did your season go for you looking back at it?
Looking back at it, I guess I'll just preface this by the previous CGL season or tournament. Um, we did not do good. We kind of just had some different things going on. I mean, life gets in the way, and then you don't
Sure.
do things how you would like to. But yeah, to say we did bad is probably still an understatement.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't do so hot, but we knew coming into this next one, we were going to revamp. We still had the same core guys, really added a few new faces, but we were gonna practice more. We were just gonna take it more seriously. And our very first game of the season, we played C4 Overwatch, who I guess we end up meeting in the semifinals. But that was our only loss of the season was week 1.
Right.
Not a guy to make excuses or whatever. Didn't have our full roster week 1. Didn't really know what we were getting into week 1. It was a close game, but they did beat us. But looking back on it from a whole, if you have to take one loss, take it week 1.
Right.
And what I think kind of happened was is we then from that point on were kind of always trying to climb to the top. There was a since tier 3 had I think 36 or 38 teams, like it was a stacked tier.
Right.
that there was 4 or 5 undefeated teams for a long time, and so we just kind of we were just hovering in the middle, just week by week, just slowly chugging up, and we knew how good we were, and like we were beating teams pretty good, but no one really was talking about us because there's 5 or 6 undefeated teams. Fair enough, we got nothing wrong with that. And it took until week 9, the last week of the regular season, for us to clinch the number 1 seed for tier 3. It was a full on grind. And so then we got the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. We got the bye week, and we still saw people saying like, they're not that good, even though we beat undefeated teams. They can only run one comp. Like, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's fun. I love the banter. We banter stuff like that. But going into playoffs, it still just seemed like people were underestimating us, and that's fine by us. So then we played, and we looked every game we played in the playoffs. People were against us, and we're like, keep it. That's what we like. We want people to be against us. Our quarterfinal game was against Darkness, and we went all 5 games with them. We took it game 5. We won 3-2. The
Nice.
next week, we got C4 Overwatch, which is the one team that gave us the one loss, which is the team we're like, we've been waiting like 3 months for this game. We go and we beat them 3-1, and then we go to the finals against Space. Space was undefeated until like week 6 or 7 in the regular season, and we gave them their first loss. And we always kind of said like, we'll see you in the finals. It was just such a good game. We got along really good with each other, and we'll say we'll see you guys in the finals. Worked out that way, and then in the finals we were just ready for everything, and then we took them down. And people then, I think, as silly as it sounds, as soon as we took down Space, and we played really well in the final game, that people were like, hey, maybe they actually were pretty good. We kind of saw a few of those kind of come out, like they're better than I thought. They were like, we've been this
Right.
good for a while, but that's okay with us.
Right. So here's the thing too, because I feel like the name and everything, did you ever feel like people weren't taking your org seriously? Like, oh, this is just like a meme team. Like they're there to have fun and whatever. But like there's a lot of orgs that branded themselves very, very professionally, with like, and not to say that you guys aren't professional, because you guys have logos and social media and stuff like that. I'm talking about purely like name wise, because you have other orgs like Nebula and Aspire. They all have like those traditional type esports names, and you guys have the Defeato, which every time I hear the name, it just brings me a smile to my face, because it's just so funny to think about, right? Especially with the logo. But you know, what did you guys ever have that as part of it? Like when you guys were recruiting more different tiers and stuff like that, where people were like, "Well, I don't know if I want to be part of a meme team or whatever." Did was it hard to be taken seriously as an org?
It's always tough when we bring new people in, and because there's always tons of free agents of that. And they're like, "Yeah, I want to play on a team." And they get in, they're like, "What's your team name?" We're like, "Danny DeFeato," and it goes one of two ways. They're like, "That's awesome," or they're like, "That's not awesome." You know what I mean? The majority of it is the awesome, but they're like, "This is seriously." So there is a bit of that, but I think really we have just a funny name, and I think when you get down to it, we're playing video games, right? Video games are supposed to be fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? And of course, we do take things seriously and stuff like that. We do things really, I think, professional on our social media and all that kind of stuff and our interactions. But video games are supposed to be meant to be fun. We're a fun looking org, and when you come in and you hang out with us, like we have a really good family environment. Like I said,
Right.
we got these 4 owners. We're all older guys. Like we're all, I think the youngest guy is like 23. We got a couple of 23s, 26, 27 year olds. Like we're all older. Like, oh, okay, they got a funny name, but they kind of know what they're doing, and they kind
Right.
of take stuff seriously internally. So there is a little bit of that. But I guess on the flip side, with having a name like ours, we've had a lot of people come to us this offseason like, "Hey, I want to play with you guys," and it's
Right.
something that's really neat. And there's like, "Hey, your popularity, your outreach, all that stuff. Like, I want to be part of that." We're like, that's awesome, which I think not a lot of teams can really say.
Absolutely. I mean, I think obviously winning the your division obviously helped quite a bit, right? To kind of solidify it as like, hey, these guys are serious. Like they obviously put in work. They did their job and they went in and won and they're good. Like there's undeniably because you won, right? So that's also part of it probably. People were like, that is a funny name, but they're serious competitors. They like to play the game, but they like to win as well, obviously. Here's my question, and I've been talking to a lot of like higher elo players, tier 5 type people, and a lot of them are, always very like weary about orgs in general, right? A lot of the tier 5 teams that did well, not including the throne, because the throne obviously is an org within itself, but a lot of the other teams were kind of just like self promoted, self funded by their own players. They weren't part of an actual org, and some of them are kind of weary about like orgs being restrictive and type of that type of stuff. And I think there's a sort of like a disconnect between those high elo players and orgs. As an org leader yourself, what do you have to say to people for higher tiers, to kind of like open themselves up to the possibility of maybe joining an org? Because I think that for our ecosystem of like the CGL and the competitive console scene, it's for the better, right? Because I feel like those high elo players, should be able to like have a home somewhere where there could be a little more organization, people could share their stuff, stuff like that. So what do you have to say to people like that, recruiting those types of players?
I think, and I mentioned this a little bit, but I'm gonna hit do a little bit more into it. Is whatever I say here, I mean no disrespect to any of these other orgs or anything like this, but this is just my assumption. Is a lot of these organizations are mainly ran by younger people, and there's nothing wrong with that. The majority of the console scene is younger people,
Right.
but from our perspective, is we have a lot of an older group of people, and we kind of set some guidelines, but we're also willing to let you do what you want to do as long as you're just not breaking our guidelines. And I think that's kind of where some people get that leeriness is they go into an org and they got these, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids and they want to micromanage everything
Right.
and they can't. And then you got these guys who want to do whatever they want and then they get into these kind of arguments and these fights and whatnot, and then it never ends up well
Right.
for us. And I mean, we only have a tier 4 team. We don't have a tier 5 team. Um, we didn't want to grow huge over one season. We want to just kind of slowly ramp up. But our tier 4 team, our reception has been really good. We give them a very good structure. We give them lots of different positive things they can work off of, a lot of perks, things like that. But as well, letting them do their own thing, knowing that they have some freedom, but some stability. Another thing I'll add to that is, and again, this is my own thoughts, but is I think a lot of those high elo guys
Hmm.
sometimes always have their back against the wall when they go to meet someone because they always, as you know, those top 500 gym guys, there's a lot of big egos, and I think the first thing to do is like I can get somewhere and I have to defend myself.
Right.
When you come to see us, you don't have to defend yourself. Be who you want to be. Well, that's what we tell everyone. We're a family here. You can be whoever you want to be. No one's going to question you on what you like, what you want to do, anything like that. And you can see people kind of coming out of their shell a little bit. And I think that's what some of these orgs are missing is just like, hey, just drop the tough guy act at the door.
Right.
Um, Come and just be your plain self. And I think a lot of people really like that about us is like, hey, I can say, what I want about my interests, my hobbies, things like that. Then you just get to see people open up and get to see like who they really are. And I think
Right.
to be honest, that really goes a long way.
Absolutely. By the way, while you were mentioning all that stuff, someone in chat, Anthony, who is a tier 5 player, he's also one of the members of the Banditos who won the tier 5 championship for the Grandmasters. I'm not sure if he's saying this as like a meme or he's actually truthful about it, but he's saying to pick his team up who won the championship for tier 5. So I don't know if that's an actual suggestion on his part. If it is, I mean, that would be pretty
Hey,
good.
just DM me on Twitter. Just DM the Defeato account on Twitter. We can talk. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's exactly kind of what I wanted to happen essentially is that I wanted like a great org like you guys to get together with great competitors, such as like the Banditos, which are they're an amazing team. Obviously they won the tier 5. They're a rambunctious group of guys, but they're really great competitors, obviously. So that would be a great match, made. And you could even make it like, you know how like some teams have like a branch of the, like, the different versions of the Danny, like you could have Danny Defeato Brandito version of and hey, it rhymes with Doritos Brandito Danny Defeato. Listen, it's perfect. I'm just saying it's perfect. Okay, so no, okay, so that, I think that's really important, especially for like all these these guys who don't, they're kind of weary. I know a lot of players that they talk about that, and you're right. I think it's just it'll be dependent on the culture of the team and everybody. You can't just all say, oh, I don't know, the orgs are so restrictive. So but let me ask you this: how do you feel? How do you balance out like the culture between being kind of like goofy and with a name and stuff like that, and also kind of having like a good structure where you like, okay guys, we need to be serious whenever, like what's that balance like as like an org leader, because now you're fielding a bunch of different tiers, and you have your hands on a lot of different teams. So how do you balance that out?
Yeah, it's definitely different. One of the first things we discussed when we were gonna start branching out and growing is we needed a code of conduct. We
Right.
said that's what we're gonna start off first. When you join our Discord, you're gonna go to our welcome channel. You're gonna get it gets DM'd to you as well. You're gonna read our code of conduct. It's pretty straightforward. It's essentially, don't be an idiot,
Right.
and we could be okay. Uh, but I think as long as we show respect to our players and they show back to us, we have a good relationship. Like I said, I got 10 plus years on a lot of these guys.
Right.
And you know what I mean? But I respect them. I don't care if you're 12, 13, 14 years old. If you
Absolutely.
can respect, I'll give you all my respect until you lose it. You give me your respect and we'll have a good relationship. And I think that's what a lot of people really like to see is they can come in and we can have fun and we got our meme channel. We're doing some different things and it's all fun. But we do, I don't want to say police it, but we see someone on Twitter, and if someone's a little too far, we just shoot the guy DM saying, "Hey, remember what name you got attached to you? Just be careful." And as long as you're not getting in them and saying, "Dude, what are you doing? You're an idiot. You got to take," you know what I mean? Just be respectful. And I think that just goes such a long way, especially in this video game atmosphere. Is respect is just something that isn't there. Like we're losing that. And I think if we just instantly say you got respect, when you like
Right.
again, we come to our Discord, our number one rule is attitude over skill. It always has been that since day one. If you're a good person, we'll find a spot for you, regardless of what your skill
Right.
is. If you come in and you're like, man, I'm the best player ever, and you guys suck, it's like, no, we don't need that. We'll find
Right.
someone that's got a good attitude that's just as good as you. We can do that. That's easy.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of top tier players get lost in the mix, right? Because undeniably, I've spoken to so many of them, and there's a lot of great people out there. There's a lot of really good players who are high and stuff like that. But also, I mean, everybody knows, everybody's been in comp, everybody's been in on the ladder and ranked and all that stuff, and has had issues in games where people have been toxic to each other. And I think this community, it can be toxic, it can be quite toxic at times, right? So there are definitely people out there like that, and I feel like sometimes the higher you get, right, the more of an ego some people get, and so they'll become that way. And I think there's, I think that's where the disconnect sometimes happens, where sometimes these guys are so high level that they're like, I'm not going to be told what to do by somebody who's less of a rank than I am, even though that's going to be pretty much 99% of the entire Overwatch console population, because they're so high anyways, right? So I mean, like, that's part of it too. Is there, what type of relationship do you look to have with specific players? Like now you're having a master team and stuff like that, and I see that all happen all the time, where org leaders are lower rank than some of their higher tier teams. So there's got to be some sort of respect that happens in order for you to kind of do your job and they do theirs. What do you think that's like for you personally in this org? What how do you foster that relationship and how do you make it work?
Well, I think I hit on it a little bit earlier. I think it is started with the age. Um,
Right.
I don't know for sure, but I think if you go into a lot of orgs, you're like, hey man, the main four guys are 27, 28, 26 years old. That's different. I'm gonna guess. I don't know for sure, but I have to imagine it's gonna be fairly different. Second of all, and we've never been shy of being personable to people and telling people about our personal lives. Like me personally, I manage a department at the hospital here. It's a very large department, and there's a lot of respect and there's a lot of different things that go into that. So it's a very high end job. I think when I tell people that, they go, "Oh, this guy wants to play Xbox with me." And
Right.
I said I could be wrong, but I feel like I go, "Oh, okay, this guy does this for a living." All of a sudden, they go, "Okay, I don't really care about his rank anymore. He's a real life guy. He got a real life job. He's got all this stuff, but he can still talk to me as a real person." And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, to be honest. Just someone they can talk to on a real level. Because I go, unfortunately, I don't really care what that number says beside your name.
Right.
We're all humans, and if you can just treat people like humans, it goes a long way, and that's what we do here. You're just another guy. We have helped out a lot of people with different personal issues that come up in life. Obviously, I won't go into detail with that at all because it's not my spot for it to say.
Right.
But just a lot of times, he'll come to like, "Man, I'm so glad I found you guys." I've heard it multiple times. They go, "You guys are so awesome. You guys have helped me, made me a better person." And when you hear that, you're like, "That's what I'm here for. This is awesome." Like,
Right.
I mean? Like video games, they've been around for 20 years. They're going to be around the rest of our lives. But if we can impact people on a personal level and help them out in their day to day life, and you kind of see that, you can see how you can help people out. I think that really does go a long way. And that's what I think people go, "Why would I leave this?"
Right. And I think that the way you mentioned that is super important, right? Like the age thing is really important. I am also an older guy, and I have always talked to some of these players who have always been a lot younger, and they're always kind of weary because they're like, oh, in their lives, in their personal lives, sometimes adults or people who are a lot older will look down upon them. And I think that in this realm, in this community, we have the opportunity to talk to each other and sort of like we have a shared interest, and so age becomes less of an actual thing for us because like I understand that Overwatch is kind of filled majority with like kids because it's that's what it lends itself to, right? It has mostly kids. And so us as like the older group, we kind of have to be like, listen, there's a lot of kids here and stuff like that, but we got to treat them like we got to treat them equally, and we got to let them know that all this stuff is important. And I think that's why sometimes these kids kind of lash out with like their rank and stuff like that because they kind of do it preemptively and defensively. But I think you're right. I think the way you approach it and stuff like that is so important, and it's really good to see. So like for a lot of people out there that have that that have that idea that orgs, oh, they don't listen and stuff like that, just try to talk, because I think that that's probably one of the most important things. Just talk to some of these org leaders and stuff like that. um
And can I add something if you don't mind?
Yo, go ahead.
Like, and I think another thing too is, and it goes back to, right, everyone, when you got the headset on, you're behind a screen, you say whatever you want. But I think there's a lot of these people on the other side of that screen that don't come from great home lives, and you know what I mean. They're just always have their guard up because that's just all they know. And I think they're just kind of scared to drop their guard. And I
Absolutely.
think that's a lot of times people forget about that. You know what I mean? For every rich kid that's playing on a 70-inch TV,
Hmm.
there's a kid that mom is working two, three jobs and the dad's not there and he's just trying to keep himself entertained and has had to fight for everything in his life.
Right.
So I think when we bring all those types of kids in, because we do, and we're saying, hey, everyone's equal. We're all friends here, and it just gives them that extra outlet. Or at school they're bullied at school. We have guys there. They go, school can be tough. They have asked, how do I deal with a bully or these things like that? We go, I can help you with that. You know what I mean? I've been there. We can
Absolutely.
help you figure that stuff out. And they just find this extra avenue where maybe their parents just don't know how to connect with them, or the parents aren't there, or things like that. And I think people realize that we are okay with that. We understand that we can work on that. Really goes a long way, and people are really appreciative of that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And as somebody who has been in that same situation where, I had a team as well where I had a lot of younger players and they had stuff that happened in their own lives that, they needed guidance and stuff like that. As somebody who was older, I offered my own guidance and helped them out. And I do the same on Twitter. And I think people know me as being I mean, they jokingly in the community like call me Dadsel, just because it's like that. You're older, you automatically become like a dad kind of
Oh yeah,
figure.
I'm Papa Burr in the Discord for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, exactly. And I think these kids, they don't necessarily, they're looking for people to reach out to them as well. Like, a lot of times, even as somebody who has the show, sometimes I'm like, oh, come get me, come ask me and to be on the show. But sometimes some of these kids really want to be on the show, and they don't ask me because they're scared of talking, or they're like, I don't know if whatever, they're shy, right? Because I think at the core, this community is kind of full of a lot of introverts and people who are kind of shy just normally, just as gamers, right? And I think that's part of the thing too. And as soon as you have somebody who's older in the community be like, guys, you don't have to be that way, come on, let's go, let's all like, hang out and do stuff like that. I think that's an important part of being a member of this community. And I'm so glad that you're talking about it, because I think that that's something that goes kind of unspoken and people don't really realize, especially the younger kids who might be looking for teams and stuff like that. So that's awesome.
I
uh,
agree with everything you said there. Yeah, completely agree.
so okay, so let's move on to let's talk about the summer splash tournament that's going to be going on, because you mentioned to me that you're fielding a team for that. What has that process been like for you guys? How has that been like?
Well, we started putting together our tier four, our masters tier team for the next tournament of CGL, whenever that happens. But we're just trying to get prepared, get a good group of guys. Some of our tier three guys have just hit that threshold where they're moving up. So we started recruiting and whatnot, and we kind of got a few guys. We're like, okay, we're going to be over that tier four limit for CGL, but we got times. We don't have to worry about that. Summer Splash comes up, and we're like, hey, we can kind of submit this team. We took our top 8 guys. They said, 4K average teams will be accepted. We're over that. I think we're like 40-80 or 40-60 in that range. So should be accepted, I guess, what I was told to find out Monday. But yeah, we took our top 8 guys, and just really excited to see what happens. We did the Lame Sauce tournament, which I think was in about November or December last year, something in that range. And
Yeah,
that was a little bit of a different style. That was just an open. They said any Xbox team you can sign up,
right,
and we signed up kind of as our tier three team, but not our full tier three team.
right,
Didn't do so hot because again we got GM plus teams, and we weren't the team that we are now to begin with.
right,
But knowing what we learned from that tournament, going to this one, we're a little bit more prepared. We have a really solid roster, and really looking forward to it. We got a couple guys you'd recognize from the stream, and we got a couple quote unquote secret weapons just waiting to. We
nice.
got some more. We got some more Danny Defeato stars in the making, definitely. And so we're ready to get them some screen time for sure.
That's awesome, and I think the Summer Splash tournament is going to be good. But I also feel like it's going to be it's sort of like an exclusive tournament, because they're going to look at all the teams. They're going to be like, oh, we're going to kind of pick and choose kind of what teams are going to go through and stuff like that. But I know CGL probably has something that they're probably going to brew up anyways at some point before the next season starts. I'm just assuming, right? But so we'll definitely see other tournaments pop up and stuff like that as well. And I'm looking forward to it. Let me ask you about your specific diamond team, because okay, so there's this thing where like, people who grow within their season as a team, as players and stuff like that, it becomes more difficult for them to kind of compete in their own tier, right? So now that you guys are champions, now that you guys are undoubtedly better than you used to be, where do you go from here as a diamond team? Do you guys continue to try to grow as a team SR wise, or what happens now? Where do you stay in diamond and try to compete again?
I think majority, like, we ended up having 10 guys on our roster. I know the limit was 12. We had 10. Two of them are for sure moving up. One hit GM, one hit, like, 39, 60 or something. Like, they're both kind of GM players, and
Hmm.
they've been having around that. They're moving on up. The other eight of us, we're kind of where we are. You know what I mean? We're not
Right.
getting any higher than what we're doing, but we need to fill two big shoes, obviously.
Right.
So especially as you get older, like I said, we got older guys. They also don't play as much anymore. So that's also the tricky part too. Is I love to grind. I haven't hit my career high in 4 seasons or something like that. So like it's just a time crunch thing. You know what I mean? And people improve, and if you're just not playing as much, a little bit trickier. But if we can take that core roster of 8 guys
Hmm.
and add a couple more, we can. I mean, we still got 4 spots to fill. We fill those 4 spots with, maybe, it takes 2 guys to fill one of those shoes type of thing. But we know we have this really solid core. We know what it takes to win. So let's just take these 8 guys, get a few more guys to come on board with us, learn our style and our commitment, and continue on this diamond train and try and repeat for next year.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that sounds like a plan, and I think that that's part of growing is that some of your players, you guys are good. Some of your players undoubtedly are going to move on up. Like you mentioned before, and that creates kind of like that idea of like, well, now some of our best are moving up. Well, now we have to kind of start again to try to fill some big shoes, like you mentioned. So that'll be pretty tough for you. I'm
Well,
assuming.
yeah, for sure. And I just want to add one thing, like, uh, there's been talks, and we don't do it, but of people sandbagging. I'm sure everyone's heard of it and whatnot. You know what
Right.
I mean? And you're like, hey, you're getting pretty close. Maybe play on your Smurf and keep under that tier limit because probably gonna be the same for the next tournament for CGL. We've always just said, like, improve. You're here to
Yeah.
improve. Like you said, we'll find a spot for you if you got a good attitude. We'll find a spot for you, whatever your SR is. You know what I mean? Like, we'd be silly not to tell people to improve to try and get better. I
Right.
think if you're telling people in life, I mean, it's a video game. Maybe saying, hey, you're good, but let's just hold back a bit. No, why don't you want everyone to get the best out of what they can do? It'd be silly not to.
Absolutely.
So definitely, if you can get GM, go GM. That's how we started the tier 4 team. We got a guy who's like, I can't play next year. It's okay. Just keep growing. We'll make a team for you. And that's kind of how it originally started.
Right.
And that's just kind of how we kept on growing. And we get guys in our tier 1 team who have never been above 26, 2,700. They come in our Discord and they're playing with different guys, and they're just learning things they haven't learned about the game. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you see them climbing just because of these simple things. You're like, that's what you're here for. Sure, obviously, it gives you a headache when you're trying to figure out your rosters and all that kind of jazz,
Right.
whatever. But it always works itself out, and I know it always works itself out. So yeah, come here and learn to be a good person if you need help with that, and improve as a player as well.
Awesome. So before we started the interview, you mentioned to me something that I didn't know about, but you guys have a charity stream next Friday, correct? Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit about that.
this is the quote unquote announcement of the charity stream. So this
Nice.
is this is yeah, we'll be getting some news out. It will be next Friday. One of our tier 4 players, and he's pretty common name around the CGL community, is Basic. Another
Nice.
Lucifer player, as I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been doing a lot of workshop streams, stuff like that. So he said, and he's working towards the CGL sponsorship as well, the streamer
Right.
sponsorship.
Right.
So he said, how can we help him? How can we help our name as well, give back a little bit and stuff like that? So he said, why don't we do a charity stream? So next Friday, he's going to be streaming some workshop games. Maybe we'll get some pugs, just some fun stuff.
Right.
People want to come. If you could donate some money, that'd be awesome. You don't have to. The charity that we are going to work towards it's called Ronald McDonald House. I'm sure
Oh,
quite a few
okay.
people are familiar with it. Personally, like, it's helped me out in a personal way with my younger brother who is helping out with the team. He actually is the guy who made our logos. It's
Nice.
helped him out. We actually even have other players on our team that it's helped out their kids as well. And so it's just one of those things where it's like things have kind of gone full circle now, where they helped us out. They got to where we are now. Maybe we can kind of give back a little bit. So if you do donate as well, we are also giving away some free prizes. We got Funko Pops and then some comics and stuff like that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you donate any amount, whatever, your name will get entered, and you'll be eligible just for just some free stuff. And otherwise, we're just gonna have a good time. Friday, I will not be there. I'm actually getting married next Friday, but
Oh yeah, that is a good excuse. That's a good
yeah, that's
excuse.
a good excuse. But Basic will be there. A couple of the other owners will be there, and they're gonna have a good time for me.
That's awesome. And by the way, congratulations. I didn't know you were getting married. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so and this will be all on Basics channel, right?
Yeah. We're just trying to help them grow as much as possible. So, I mean, I'm going to tell you guys now, if you haven't, Basic PMA on Twitch. I'm going to give him a little bit of a shout out. He's a great kid. Really working hard for that sponsorship. So, if you can give him some follows, watch the streams. He's funny. He's charismatic. Great kid. So, yeah, if you haven't already, go follow him. Otherwise, on Friday, make sure you go check him out as well. And yeah, we'll have a good time.
Oh, absolutely, and that's awesome. You're right. You're absolutely right. He is a great guy. I've had conversations with him before. I played with him before. He's a great individual, and he's definitely looking forward to that stream and checking that out. I'm gonna have to donate because Funko Pop, like the Funko dolls
Yeah.
and everything, and the comics. That's all up my alley right there. I'm gonna have to at
Well,
least give it a few donations to try to get my name in there.
for sure. Yeah, well, that's what we figured. It's kind of everyone's kind of we're all in kind of the same kind of stuff. So we
Right.
figured, yeah, that would definitely appeal to a lot of the guys, and so that's what we're hoping for. So
That's awesome. Perfect, dude. Well, listen, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I really appreciate you coming by and hanging out with us and answering some of these burning questions that I know people had because, I think your organization and your name has kind of become, it's obviously like a Mimi type team, but has been so well respected within the community, and it partially had to do with that, with the fact that you guys have such a fun name to begin with. So I look forward to all of the stuff that you'll be doing, including the Summer Splash tournament team and all of the charity stream that you guys are gonna have as well. And listen, congratulations on the wedding again.
yeah.
So hopefully that all goes well and you everything happens there. So again, thank you so much for being on, guys. We got it. We got all the information about Danny Defeato. That's awesome. We didn't have these before, and it's perfect to have them now because I always saw the name, saw the org, and I was like, these guys, they just look interesting. So check them out. And it can't help being even just associated with an awesome org like you guys.
So thank you
Perfect.
so much. Thank you so much. It was awesome being on here. It's just great what you also do for the community as well. Getting people's names out there. Huge respect. I know you're well respected in the community as well. Thanks for everything you do as well for us.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Well, now listen. At the end of the show, I usually remind people that this is a community podcast. If you're interested in being on the show, hit me up. I'll try to get you on as much as possible. And if not, I'll try to reach out to you eventually as well. But reach out to me, twitter.com/dazzle167, and let me know that you want to be on the show. We'll have you on and we'll talk about that. Usually at the end of the show, we try to rate somebody. So I'm looking here at some of the people. There's a very good streamer out there that's streaming out right now that I want to give some love to. It's a somebody who's also going for their streamer sponsorship, which, by the way, we will talk about. The first batch of them is going to be announced on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're looking into getting into some of those streamer sponsorships and stuff like that, look out for the announcements. We're going to announce the first batch. Nips is coming on to the show, and he's going to talk about who some of the top 10 orgs are going to be. He's going to talk about the future of some of the the CGL tournaments and stuff like that. And we'll talk about the first batch of the streamers that are going to be included for the sponsorship. So check that out, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Right now, we're going to go ahead and raid Dolly Rocks Your Socks, which is an awesome name. And we're going to have her, we're going to give her a little shout out. Let me see if I can get the name right here. Hold on. Okay, so hopefully we got the name right. There we go. We got a name right. So if you get into her chat, let her know Dazzle167 and Burr from Danny Defeato said hi, and tell them, give them the support if you don't follow them yet, and feel free to follow them. All right, guys? Till later. I'll see you all. Peace.
Yep.
Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself.